Hey everyone, Dumont Owen here. It is noon, and we are starting a 3-hour masterclass. So buckle up. We will take a break. At one point, and just know that I know this is long, or it's a long time commitment, 3 hours. So anytime you have to get up and leave, just do so. I am recording it. You will get more out of it if you're here for the questions, to ask questions and get those answered. But you're probably going to need to take a break somewhere in there. So please feel free to do so. I always find during the master classes that people get more out of it when they attend live. But if you are watching this on the recording, know that this is set up so that you should be able to get all the information and be able to benefit from it. So with that being said, if you are on Facebook, know that I cannot see your comments unless you go to the little square above you and give StreamYard. Well, I can see your comments, but I can't tell who's asking, so I won't be able to recognize you and get back to you individually on that question. If you're on LinkedIn, you have to go to privacy and settings in order to do that. And you do that by clicking on that me icon up in the right-hand corner and then doing it from there. So either way, and on YouTube, of course, you can comment on YouTube. So wherever you're watching from, or if you're watching the recording, welcome. And if you don't know me or you haven't been to one of my work or master classes before, I'm Dumont Owen. I'm I'm a certified master personal brand strategist and digital brand strategist. And I specialize in helping coaches, consultants, and other service providers get more clients on LinkedIn by promoting powerful brands. And LinkedIn lists that on their social selling index as the number one way that people get clients. So, one of those 4 pillars of social selling or selling on LinkedIn, and it is so, so important. So I'm glad you're here. Let me see. First of all, let me just check and make sure that you can hear me. Could someone just jump on and let me know whether you can hear me? I know I did one of these one time and I didn't have my mic turned on. So I always look for that feedback. Okay. Well, listen, let's get going because there is a lot to cover today. If you are watching just right now and have any questions, put them in the chat. I will stop and answer questions towards the middle of the presentation, and we'll take a short break there. And then at the end, I'm always available for questions. As long as you have questions, I will be here to answer them. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to add my stream, and we should be able to, hold on, just let me make sure that it's working right. Okay, so you should be able to see that right now. If you cannot, can somebody let me know? Otherwise, you should be able to see it. Okay. All right, so let's get started. Okay, what we're talking about today is going to be number 1, an overview of the process of personal branding. We're going to talk about what a personal brand is and then how to build your brand in 3 steps. Now, I've broken this presentation up into 2 parts. This is the agenda for the first part, and the second part, we're going to get specifically into LinkedIn. So a slightly different agenda there. All right. And for some reason on StreamYard, my my logo is off to the right. There's always a challenge with getting your slides right here. But let's start with just a brief overview. I have uploaded to Dropbox a workbook for you, and I'm going to put it right here. And show that. Let me also drop it in the chat so that you have that too. Okay. Okay, so it's showing there too, and I will also send this out with the replay. So, whatever you're looking for, you're going to get the workbook no matter what. And this takes you step by step through building a personal brand. So be sure and download that. Okay, the process of branding. First of all, what the heck is a brand, right? Well, we define it, I'm certified by Reach Communications, and we define it as a unique promise of value. And we're going to go into each of these individual, but it's unique because your brand differentiates you from everyone else who is in your field of expertise or in your industry. And there are over 900 million people on LinkedIn right now. And well, not this very instant. There are over 900 million users, and so you can bet that there are other people on LinkedIn who do what you do. And so you want to make yourself unique and different from all the others, because what we know in branding is that people don't buy from you because you're the best. I mean, with over 900 million people, there may be someone who's better out there, who's been doing it longer or has a unique point of view, but they buy from you because you're different. They're kind of different. And we're going to talk about that. It's also a promise because it's authentic. And authenticity is the foundation of your brand. It's a promise that you are who you say you are, and that it's authentically you, and that you deliver what you promise. That brand is a promise. Okay, a promise on delivery. And then finally, we're going to talk about value. And value is not just about providing people value on LinkedIn. It's about providing them with something that's relevant to their problems and challenges. I know you get spam on LinkedIn, and you consider it spam because it may be very valuable to someone, but it has nothing to do with anything that you're dealing with. So value is always related to relevance. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the history of personal branding. Now, that guy on the right is William Arruda. And William is the founder and president of Reach Communications, and he now has another company. And oh my gosh, it just went out of my head. I'm sorry, William. I will put that in the resources for you all. He has a second company now too. Personal branding was first mentioned in the 1960s, late 1960s, in an article in Fast Company called The Brand Called You. And I remember this distinctly when this came out, because I was in my doctoral program and I was taking a course on community colleges. My doctorate is in higher education administration. So I was taking a course on community colleges, and the guy who was teaching it came in and said, you have to read this, because this is all about how you get ahead in the world. This is about how you advance. He was talking about community colleges, how you're going to advance in the community college, environments. So it really made an impression on me. And then when it came time, when I was looking around for something that I could study with that, this is what I came up with. So, or I decided to study under William and learn personal branding. Okay. Um, I wanted to just show you some of the world's strongest brands and talk a bit about them. The brands are, that you see here are all ones that you recognize, or most of them you recognize at least. And you probably, if it's a strong brand, you may have a very strong reaction to it, because strong brands, um, they cause an emotional reaction with us. So, I always look at, like Marlboro. Well, if you don't smoke, or you used to smoke, or you're allergic to smoke, that's going to have a very negative reaction for you. If you're somebody who smokes Marlboros or smokes cigarettes, Marlboro always kind of portrayed itself, that brand, as, the Marlboro man. He was rugged, and so I'm sure it had an emotional reaction from a lot of people. Okay. One that gets a reaction from me is Apple. And the reason for that is that for years, I was in a mixed marriage. I was PC. I had a PC. My husband had a Mac. And it was the source of not continuous, but significant debate. My husband was working in a small organization where they had Macs. I was working in higher education where we all had PCs. So even though my husband wanted me to have a Mac and kept saying, Microsoft is terrible and blah 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 blah, there was nothing I could do about it. So when I left higher ed and decided to start my own business, and my computer was dying on me, I bought a Mac. So we now have. I'm still not as big a fan as he is, but it's brought peace to our family. So people who think of Macs think of Steve Jobs. They think of, a lot of their ads were about, people who walk to a different drummer. And but other people look at Mac and go, way overpriced, and they are more fans of Microsoft, which, by the way, owns LinkedIn. So you may have very different reactions to that, based on what your experience is, and what your values are. And then, Coca-Cola, well, there's an exactly. Yeah. Apple and Mac had stayed married. Right, exactly. Um, um, so, you know, everybody knows, or at least in the United States, the story of when Coca-Cola tried to change its brand to the new Coke, and it was a disastrous campaign. People who love their Coca-Colas love that. People who love their Pepsi love that. And it was a disastrous change in brands. So, brands are very, very important in the commercial world. Okay, and here we see two of the strongest ones that I just talked about, Apple and Coke. So, when you look at those, you have an emotional, maybe even a visceral reaction to those. I know that some people, when they, go to a place that either sells Coke or Pepsi, they're really disappointed, because they are loyal to their cola product. Okay, so, what makes a brand different than a commodity? Well, I think one way to look at that is, just the difference between the coffee that you might buy in a coffee in a store, or even, one of the coffee shops that, are around the corner or in your community, versus a brand like Starbucks. When Starbucks is promoting their brand, when you see that Starbucks brand, it doesn't just sell coffee. Starbucks has its own experience. And it started out, in it was either Oregon or Washington. I can't remember which one it was, but it started out with, the the open, or not open windows, but lots of windows. And there were actually bar seats where you could sit at the windows, you could look out. It had, the drive through where you could get a really good cup of coffee. And then they got into all these specialty brands. So, one point I want to make here is that you are going to pay more for that latte or caramel macchiato or whatever it is that you love at Starbucks than you may at your local coffee store, or coffee shop. We have one that we go to on the weekends, and it's a different environment than Starbucks. I like Starbucks, and I meet people at Starbucks, but I also am very well aware that I pay more when I go to Starbucks. So, just one of those things to keep in mind. Okay, so why personal branding? What is it that personal branding does for you? Well, one of the things that it does is that it makes you really, really conscious of how to relate to people and how to promote what you do for people. So we go through 3 steps when we talk about defining our personal brand. And the workbook that I just put up will take you through these 3 steps. I'm going to talk about another way to do it too, but the workbook is free. You'll just notice you'll notice how to do it when you download it. So there are 3 steps. They all start with EX. The first one is extract. The second one is express, and the third one is exude. So in extract, you are unearthing your unique promise of value, your brand. And by unearthing, I mean you already have a brand. Now, this may be really exciting for some of us and really not so exciting for others. I remember the first one, because your brand, someone said, is what people say about you after you leave the room. So you're going kind of, well, I wonder what people do say about me when I leave the room. So the first part, the extract part, is actually unearthing your brand. In the second part, you're communicating your brand to your target audience. So in doing that, that means a couple of things. One, you have to know who your target audience is in order to communicate to them. And two, you have to have a way and an ability to communicate your brand clearly through the way that you express yourself. And then the third part is exude. And exude is that whole brand identity system. It's knowing your colors, your tags, your logos. If you are in, the brick and mortar world, mostly and people come to your office, it's doing your office. It's all those pieces. All of those come under the label of exude. Okay, so when we talk about branding, and you're going to see this several times during this presentation, we're talking about being yourself in 3 dimensions. Branding is not flat, okay? Branding is about who you are in your work, in your life, and in the world. It's something that transcends just the flat page or the screen. It's about fully expressing who you are. And that is what people want to know. Some of you may have seen Simon Sinek's talk on, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's about your big why. Why do you do what you do? And that is one of the things that people really want to know, because that's one of the differences that they're looking for in a brand. Okay, so the first part is extract. So, we talked about your personal brand being your unique promise of value. Now, when we're talking about unique and that differentiation, remember, we're talking about what differentiates you from your peers, from other people who are in the same field of expertise or in the same industry, who are your competitors. And one of the cool things about LinkedIn is that there are actually ways to spy on your competitors and see who their connections are. They may not be visible at first, but if you connect with them, you can actually use advanced search to find out who their connections are. And just because they are connected with someone who may be ideal for you doesn't mean that person or that company is their client. Okay, there's a difference. So that's something to really keep in mind. So when you're developing your brand, you want to be sure that you're differentiating yourself. You're standing out from the pack. Your promise is all about you, that three-dimensional you and what makes what you're made of, your stuff. And then finally, it's about your target audience, and providing that relevance. That's that value, and making it relevant to those individuals. So let's start with that promise part and authenticity. Now, to understand your promise or what makes you authentically you, you have to look at that in two different ways. One is by looking at your internal perspective. And I'm going to talk about the different elements a little bit more in a minute, but what your values are, or you can at least go through in the workbook, it takes you through an exercise so that you can list your top values. But it's also getting feedback from others. I spent over 2 decades in higher education teaching career development. And, one of the things that I was very aware of was that we had all these different kinds of assessments that we would use with students and with alums, helping them understand, how their interests, their values, their strengths, all those things related to career choice. But I was always very aware and urged them to get input from other people, because an individual assessment, only tells you what you believe. Okay, so it's important to also understand other people's perceptions. So I would send them to their faculty members or tell them to talk to their parents or their classmates. How do you perceive this? I think, and this assessment showed that these are my top values. Do you agree with this? Is this what you see in me? Because that's so important. Our internal perspectives are important. They're very important because that's how we know who we really are. But it's also important to understand how other people see us, because there may be elements of our brand that other people aren't seeing and that we know are really important. So we have to find ways of bringing that to the fore, of making those apparent to others and promoting those. So getting those external reactions are very important. Excuse me. Okay. So let's talk first about looking inward. We need to be clear on our goals. And, on LinkedIn, particularly, or on social media, those goals need to be based on your business goals, right? The only reason to be promoting your brand and to be on LinkedIn in particular is to get your business goals satisfied, to meet the goals that you have for your business. It's also very important to understand your values and your passions. Values are what we live by, and those are so much a part of what we make of who we are authentically and what we're promising to deliver. So those values are extremely important, and our passions are all about our interests and what makes us jump out of bed in the morning and what makes us do what we do. And believe me, when you know your passions and you can express them, people are going to be drawn to what you're doing. You also need to know your strengths and your skills. And some of these, inherently. You may have taken something like the Strengths Finder, which is also a very popular book. You may have had a Gallup strengths coach. So knowing your strengths is very important, and your skills. And, if you think to your LinkedIn, head to your LinkedIn profile, skills are part of that endorsement section. And you can list skills in almost every portion of your profile. We're not going to go heavily into the profile today because we're just going to kind of do an overview of it, because I have other presentations that you can watch to learn more about your profile. Okay, so goals involve what role you want to have next, where you want to go with your business, and then you want to document that in terms of a headline, or what we call in branding a brand statement. You want people to know who you help, that niche. You want them to know what it is that you do, the results that you produce, and all of that. And you have to do that in a way that attracts them, and that uses the right keywords, and also adds that zing that is going to make you stand out from everybody else who has the same things. So uncovering your top values and passions. And in your workbook, you're going to identify your top 5 values, and then uncover your top 3 passions. And I've had people agonize over this. I had one person just argue with me continuously. Well, that's like chopping off my arm if I only identify 5 values. Well, you want to identify 5 core values. And you want to, rather than the situational values that may change at times. But your 5 core values are those things that you absolutely operate by. And then what are the 3 passions that drive you, that absolutely drive you? Okay, so the second part of this, the second part of unearth or extract, is what people think about you. How do you collect those perceptions? Okay, one way, and I told you I would mention this to you, is with the 360 Reach Personal Branding Survey. Now, I am not going to go deeply into this on this call. If you were interested in this, I can certainly, you can get in touch with me and I can tell you more about it. It is a survey that you send out to people that know you well enough to be able to comment on your values, your strengths, your passions, and all those things, and give you feedback. And you want to do that. When you want to use the 360 Reach Personal Branding Survey, you want to have enough people that you can send it out to that will respond and give you at least 10 responses. The more responses you have, the more accurate it is. And then it's going to generate a report. And they have really, really improved this now to where you can take the survey. And I think if you take it if you just order it from their site, it's $297. And it comes with video coaching along with it that tells you how to complete the survey, how to send it out, and then how to interpret that. So you can do that alone, or you can have under evaluation for the to-do list. Yeah, I get that. So you can do that either on your own, or if you order it through me, it's less for the survey, and then I can do work with you on it too. But I'm not pushing that. The social branding workbook is another way that you can do it. So depending on your budget and on the number of people that you want feedback from, it's going to make a difference in what choice you use. You can do it with the workbook and then just sit down with people who know you and say, what do you think? These are the top 5 values I identified. What do you think about this? Would you say these are right? Or you can even give them that exercise from your workbook and say, hey, would you just check these off? And maybe you only want to do it with 10 people in your immediate circle, or 10 people that have seen your work, all kinds of ways. So there are different ways to do this. Okay. You also want to understand your superpowers, when you're saying that. So this is your strengths and skills, but think of them as your superpowers. And then let's go into the second part of this. What makes you compelling? This is that value piece. Remember, it's your brand is your unique promise of value. So your value is all about what makes you compelling to other people, that they are going to choose to do business with you. And compelling, as I said, is all about relevance. So it's all about relevance to your target audience, what they are going to find compelling. And it's also about relevance to the decision makers and the influencers. And we're going to talk about more about that in the second part of this presentation. But, there are decision makers and influencers on LinkedIn who can promote you, or who you can connect with and start making use of what they're doing. And so, it's all about that relevance. What is valuable to that individual? This is something that I have to learn myself every once in a while. I sent out some messages recently that 2 or 3 people wrote back and said, this doesn't really apply to me. And I looked at it and I responded and said, you're absolutely right. What was I thinking? Because it wasn't valuable to them. And anything that isn't valuable to someone is basically spam. It's irrelevant. You're just bugging them. So you really want to be careful about your message, about your brand, and about providing value. A lot of us provide value initially through lead magnets, through a free gift that might be helpful to somebody. One of my free gifts is a free LinkedIn profile checklist. Another one is, a LinkedIn roadmap on how you go through the 4 stages that you go through to succeed on, and build sustainable business success on LinkedIn. But if that isn't hitting someone when they can use it, that's just spam. So I don't approach people with my lead magnet and say, and just give it to them. I ask them if it's something that they could use and say, just respond with a yes, and then I'll send it to you. Because otherwise it's just bugging them, and they can just say yes or no, or just ignore it, and I won't send it to them. And if they say yes, they'll get it. So, and then if they don't like that one, I can wait for a while. I'm not going to keep sending them what they consider spam. So I will wait for, another 3 to 4 weeks and send them another offer. And, if they like that, then they can do the same thing. They can respond and ask for it. So it's about providing value, something that meets their challenges and needs. Okay, your target audience. Now, this is obviously a big part of that relevance. You must be really clear on your target audience, so that you can focus your strategy on them. And if you are strictly B2B, you can certainly research companies and potential clients on LinkedIn. Some of my clients who are B2C, I have them research their niche in terms of buying behaviors and in terms of how to find them and identify them on LinkedIn. But sometimes I have them also use it with Facebook, because Facebook, for someone who's in B2C, may be a way for them to focus more on the psychographics using their search mechanisms. So yes, Mike, I absolutely agree with you. Focusing on the target is, it's something that's ongoing, and it's something that you never really stop, because it's kind of like, you've heard the term moving target. Well, yeah, you always have to stay clear on that. And the best way to do that is by being in communication. I just finished a 3-week research project with people on LinkedIn selling, that I wanted to get information for as I was designing a course. And that information that they gave me was so, so valuable. And they even continued contributing when, I went back to some of them and said, what do you think of what I came up with? And they continued to help me refine it. So being in those conversations with your I'm not going to say tribe, because that would not be, that's an incorrect term to use. We understand today with indigenous peoples. So I would say your peeps is another way that people describe it. So, your group, and you want to map out your target audience, starting with you. And then, whatever role you're in, using those people who are on that inner circle, that may be somebody in your family, it may be somebody that you have a partnership with, but, using that inner circle, and using them, and then just, making those connections moving outward. I'm in a group called the Joint Venture Insider Circle. And I will be communicating about this more in the next month. Joint venture partners are people who promote your programs because you have the same niche, but you have different programs or different services. And so, JV Insider Circle is one that where you meet and have conversations with other people who can promote you. And you can, when you really get into a good JV partnership, it's invaluable. It is invaluable in driving people to you. So you want to map out that target audience and how you're going to reach them. And there are all different ways of doing that. On LinkedIn, one place where your target audience might be is you could reach out to alums of your educational institution. You have an instant connection with them, and it's something that they are going to relate to immediately. Okay, so let's talk about what makes you unique, and that's the differentiation. And that is always, I think, a huge question in people's minds on LinkedIn. I know it was when I first started out, because that differentiation is what makes you stand out from all of your competitors. So there are two pieces to this. First, you need to know what you have in common with them. And then you need to know what makes you stand out, well, how you are different from them. And that's done. Oh, hey, Joyce. Good to see you here. And that is that is absolutely how you stand out from people. And I know when I first started out, I was in career coaching when I first started out, because that's what I've been doing in higher ed. And I used to worry constantly. There are all these people out who have been doing career coaching for years, and I'm coming out of higher ed, and it's a different animal. And I didn't know how to make myself seem different. So I would go and I would look at other people's profiles, and I would kind of use them as a model. I didn't plagiarize. I was from higher ed. You don't plagiarize. But I would look at what they were, the key words they were using, the kinds of services they were offering. And I would constantly worry about how I could make myself different. And that was really the key. And it wasn't until I understood branding that I really understood how to do that. And those of you who are joining me late, I did drop a link in the chat to the social branding workbook. I will also send that out when I send you the replay. So you will have that link. And at the end of this, when we get into questions, I'll drop that link. I'll drop the links because there are actually three things that I want you to have as part of this masterclass. So what makes you unique is what makes you stand out from your competitors. All right. So when you look at that, what's the difference between, a Euro card, MasterCard, a Visa, and American Express? Well, there could be some that would argue at least the MasterCard and the Visa are somewhat similar, in the way that they work and the way that you can use them. Sometimes one is accepted over others in different places. American Express, one of the big differences is that you pay the entire balance each month. You don't it's not something where you have an interest rate that you carry from month to month. So they make their money, but they make their money in two different ways, and they're used more commonly in different areas. So a big difference in those brands. Now, coming from career development, we always talked about the elevator pitch. And your elevator pitch was theoretically anyway, what it would take for you to, and it came out of the whole Madison Avenue idea of advertising. And, it was theoretically, what you would say to convince people to hire you is the way that we used it, or at least to look at you and want to get to know you as a possible candidate from the 10th floor to the first floor. Well, a lot of the elevator pitches people taught were really obnoxious. And, I used to think, oh my gosh, by the time they get to the first floor, people are going to open that elevator door and they are going to sprint away from you. So your elevator pitch was a good elevator pitch, always invited people to understand who you were, and started a conversation. So your personal brand statement is similar to an elevator pitch. It tells people in a very quick way, and we're going to go more into this in the second half of the presentation, but it tells people who you are, who you help, and how you help them. But it also has a brand statement with it that really, really expresses what makes you unique and different, and attracts people, and also really clearly. And here's a big difference, because in your elevator pitch, you are always trying to attract them. On social media, and then particularly on LinkedIn, a powerful brand statement and a powerful brand is going to repel people as strongly as it attracts. It's going to attract all of your ideal clients, and it's going to repel the other ones, because that's who you want coming to you. And they should know when they land on your profile, because it takes about 7 seconds, on the outside for people to make a decision as to whether they're in the right place and stay on your profile. So you want them to know immediately, oh, I'm home. This person, this is someone I want to have a conversation with. And it should be repelling all those other people. And those of you who have been following me for a while know that I advocate, yes, you want to grow your network, but no, you don't want to just fill it up. You want to grow a very targeted network that's just the people that you need to know you. So they are going to be the people who are either going to be your clients, or they are going to be the people who can refer clients to you or promote you. So, there's a value attached to that network. Okay, let's look at a couple of ways to do brand statements. Now, these are very, very general. They are not, you don't have to follow these formats specifically. I just want you to be sure that you have the elements of these. So in the first one, I use my, and this would refer to strengths. I use my first strength and my, or I use my strength in something to do something for something. So I could say I use my understanding of personal, or my expertise in personal branding to create to help people promote, attract more clients on LinkedIn for coaches, consultants, and other service providers. Or I could say I support, help, or empower, activate. So I could say I help coaches and other service providers by using my understanding of personal branding and LinkedIn to help them build sustainable business success. Or I could say leveraging my understanding of personal, or my knowledge of personal branding, or my expertise in personal branding and knowledge of LinkedIn. I deliver more clients and more sales to coaches, consultants, and other professionals and personal service providers. Hey, Teresa. Yeah, so we want to be able to really promote those things. Yes, Mike, that's a really good point about helping develop the process and having rules that make it easier to play. I'm going to see if we can display our I've never been able to get that to work though. Okay, well, I'm just going to be responding to you. But yes, absolutely. You guys are making some really great points here. Okay, so next. There are three simple rules about a personal brand statement. And these I really want you to take seriously. One is that it's only one sentence long. Okay, you're not writing, a major epic here. You are writing a brand statement and it is one sentence long. The second thing, it must be so clear that it's easily understood by a 12-year-old. Although recently I heard someone else who is very knowledgeable in this space. Her services are completely different, but she homeschools her 6-year-old, and she said it has to be easily understood by my 6-year-old. So clarity, clarity, clarity. And then finally, you must know it so well that you can recite it by memory, and eventually, and know it so well that you don't have to struggle with it, that you don't come across as mechanical because you've memorized it. And it's only one sentence long, so that should be pretty easy to do. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Now, these are examples of people who used the 360 reach, that instrument that I mentioned earlier. And this person's feedback on the reach was that they were quirky, collaborative, creative, and confident. So those were four of the adjectives that people use to identify their brand attributes. So this person in their personal brand statement said, I use my quirky nature, confidence, and passion for fun to motivate creative teams and marketing departments to work together more effectively and drive greater value for their organizations. Whoops, I just turned off comments. There you go. Okay. See, I can be dangerous with that sometimes. So I think you can see where that quirky, collaborative, creative, and confidence, attributes all went into developing their personal brand statement. Okay. Okay. Secondly, your person, here's another example. In this, the people who responded to their survey said, cited the attributes of empathy, that they were leader-like, they were creative, and they were high energy. So through my natural enthusiasm and my empathy for others, I inspire our R&D professionals to develop innovative products in biotechnology. So definitely reflecting those brand attributes. Okay, another one. This person was identified as calming, philanthropic, forward-thinking, and caring. So I love this one. I deliver Zen-like webinars and online learning programs to stressed out, overworked police officers, firemen, and EMT emergency workers to help them identify, manage, and reduce stress. Well, I just love that one because I think it says it all. And there's someone on LinkedIn, I think she's a career coach, and in her personal brand statement, she says, that she was elected mayor based on, now she says elevator speech, but based on a damn good elevator speech. But you can think of your personal branding statement kind of in that way. Now, she was using her elevator speech and what she did there as part of her brand to convince coaching, job seekers that she was the person for them. So, you can take that brand statement and just make it sing. Okay, and then another one, and this person, funny, team focused, sarcastic, and likable. So I write witty, pithy, timely, and compelling marketing materials for B2B companies. So, if you're in that copywriting area, and you can be, and you're known as having a dry sense of humor. Joycelyn, I absolutely will get you the information. You will see the reach tool in the information I'm going to send out afterwards. And you can just write to me if you want more information on it. So watch the replay. I think I covered it in like the first 15 minutes. And you can learn about that. And then the other option you have is the social branding workbook. So yes, the 360 reach is something that you absolutely can get. Okay. Yes, Mike, absolutely sticky. Yes, adding the word sticky, and we want sticky clients. We want sticky customers. I think it's what is his name? Neil. Oh, he's so Patel. Always talks about it being easier to keep a client and less expensive to keep a client than to go out and get a new one. Okay, so questions. I am going to stop presenting for a minute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Whoops. Okay, is it going to let me stop it? I'm going to remove this for a minute. Okay, there we go. So if anybody has any questions, just type them in the chat real quick and I will answer those. Yes, and Mike, you made a good point about the game KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, and I think they use that a lot in politics too. I've heard that phrase, but it's so absolutely important. Clarity is just so important. And Joyce, just to revisit for just a second what I was talking about with the 360 reach, is that it's a survey that you can use to first look inward and look at your brand attributes, and then survey other people who know you to get their feedback on it, kind of in a nutshell. So I'm not seeing any other questions at this point. So I'm just going to keep going. And we will take a break at the end of this part of the presentation and go on from there. So moving forward. Okay, so one of the things that we talk about in terms of being known is that you want to develop your visibility, your credibility, and you want to do it in the real world and in the virtual world. You know, a lot of us moved into the virtual world. I was already there, but a lot of people, you know, really over the last 2 years had to just completely change directions and move into the virtual world. I was talking to somebody yesterday who had a studio where she dealt with, you know, she did massage, she did yoga and all these different things, and she was very successful. Well, that really took a hit during the pandemic. So she was moving into the virtual world. So when we're talking about branding, we're talking about visibility, you know, being known. We're talking about credibility, having that believability. And then when we're talking about LinkedIn, we're usually talking about findability and likability too. You know, when you get into that, you know, how do people find you? And then, you know, do they know, like, and trust you? That old sales mantra. So all of this is important. Now, when we talk about branding, we're talking about 3 C's. One is clarity, and we've talked a lot about clarity. Your brand has to be clear. And I keep getting messages in here. Hold on. I want to make sure that yeah, okay, it's turned off. I was getting messages from my mail service. Okay, so clarity, consistency, and constancy. And consistency refers to always having the same brand. You know, are you the same? And that goes back to that authenticity, to the promise part of the unique promise of value. Because remember, that's how we define a brand. So that consistency means that it is absolutely authentic, so that whether you're showing up at church or, you know, having you know, a drink with your buddies, or, you know, on social media, or dealing with your clients and customers, you are the same person. You are 100% authentic in the way that you're presenting yourself. That is so, so important, because let's face it, you know, I'm not an expert on other social media, although I'm on some of it. I'm an expert on LinkedIn, and I mean, you know, there are a lot of phonies, right? And so when you are consistently who you are going to stand out. There's also constancy, and that means you cannot hide your light under a bushel. You need to be out there constantly. And if you want to put that, you know, kind of with another way of looking at consistency, it's getting people to expect to see you. So you're out there constantly. You're always consistent in your brand, and you're getting people to kind of develop a rhythm with you. Now, LinkedIn has a new service called, well, it's a couple of years old now, but they keep adding to it, called Creator Mode. And one of the things a couple of the things you can do in Creator Mode, actually there are 3, are newsletters, live streams like I'm doing now, and podcasts. And all of these are going to get a better return for you if you are constant, and if there is an expectation that you do this on certain days at certain times. It's just, you know, that way you train people to look for you. And you train LinkedIn, because the algorithms start recognizing that. Okay, so, you know, here's a question. You know, you've heard the old, you know, there are a number of sayings, you know, like, if the bear poops in the forest, you know, does it happen, or whatever it is, you know, if a tree falls in the forest, do you hear it? If you don't show up in Google, do you exist? And that headline, which your personal brand statement is a very big part of, is the most valuable real estate on the internet in terms of search engine optimization. Just think about it. If you Google your name, and you want to Google your name in quotation marks, so that it will come up with you, not somebody else. if you Google your name, your LinkedIn profile is going to be in the top 2 or 3 results. I will bet you that. If you find out that that isn't true, then you let me know, because I have yet to meet someone who, when they Googled themselves using quotation marks, they didn't show up in the first 2 or 3 results. Very, very important. Okay, so do Google yourself regularly. Okay, and when you Google yourself, I want you to look at how you show up. And I want you to look at these five measures of brand in what you're coming up in Google. I want you to look at the volume. How much of what you do is out there? How much is it that is actually, what you are putting out? If you only show up in your LinkedIn profile, you have some work to do. And I will promise you that if you start doing articles and posts and doing them regularly on LinkedIn, you are going to show up in volume. Okay, relevance. Is the way you're showing up, is that going to be relevant to the clients and customers that you're looking for? Another one is validation. Are there people talking about you on LinkedIn? Do testimonials show up there? My web page is a sorry mess right now because I went with the wrong person, and it did a terrible job. But still, some of the testimonials show up. We're in the process of moving that web page to another platform and rebuilding it. But I didn't know anything at the time, and I had somebody build a web page for me, and it was terrible. So you want your web page or your landing page or whatever it is, or your testimonials and recommendations on LinkedIn. And I'm going to tell you when we go into the LinkedIn part about how you can make those show up even better, are very important. Purity. Now, there aren't a whole lot of Dumont Owens out there, so I don't need to worry about this. But if you have a common name, you want to make sure that it stands out in some way. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is customize your LinkedIn URL, and I'll show that to you in a while. But you want to, or if you're a coach, maybe it shows up as Coach so-and-so. Or if, your name's John Smith, but your middle name is Matilda, maybe you put your middle name. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're not being mixed up with all those other people. How many times have you Googled someone and you get the name of somebody else who is really famous? In whatever, it may not be somebody you ever heard of, but they're famous somehow because, there's page after page after page of them, and so you want that purity, that it's only about you. And then finally, diversity. And we're not talking about diversity in terms of racial identity here. We're talking about diversity in terms of the kinds of content that are showing up. Are there videos? Are there articles? Are there some of your lead magnets or your offers showing up? Whatever that is, you want a plethora. You want a number of different kinds of things showing up when people Google your name. Okay. All right. I just want to hit this very quickly. Those of you who are in marketing probably know this already, and that is that digital first is a term that was, excuse me, I have to keep grabbing my water here. Digital first is the concept that, people very often get to meet you digitally online before they meet you in person, or if they ever meet you in person. And this was first cited in a book called Control Alt Delete. And if you haven't read that book, I think it's still in print. And it's absolutely, it's a little dated, but the concepts are not dated. Okay, and then primacy is a second one, and that refers to the fact that our first impressions. Remember, your mom always told you first impressions count, or at least my mom did. That primacy is that people hang on to that first impression. It's darned hard to reverse a negative impression when you've made it. When that first impression is what people are dogged about. And no matter where you are in the world right now, there are a lot of divisions around, politics or religion or, all of these different areas, and people dig in. Their first love, if they were raised in a certain religious environment, that may be how they view the world, and they will always view the world that way. If they have a political belief that is their first belief that they ever formed about a candidate or a party or whatever it is, they will very often hang on to that no matter what contradictions come towards them. They will not change. They're like, we're like dogs. And I'm not going to say they, because we all have the capability of being like dogs about our beliefs and just hanging on there. Okay, and then anchoring. Anchoring is what we can do to anchor a first impression, a positive first impression with people. And that is all about reinforcing that brand. And I think, Mike, you said something a little bit earlier about, always being under evaluation, always reaching out and reinforcing, knowing who your niche is and reinforcing those brand beliefs with them. It's extremely important. Okay, volume and relevance. Now, these are terms that are extremely important in branding. So, you might want to be on other kinds of sites, thought leadership sites. And I'm trying to think of, there's one that just popped into my mind and popped right out again. Well, there are article sites, and this is one of the big ones, and I can't think of the names, but there are article sites where you can post within certain categories. Personal portals. Now, these are personal web pages where you just talk about your beliefs and people get to know you personally. Your personal portal may be actually part of your web page where you talk about who you are, and not just in dry terms. Remember, your brand is three-dimensional. It's who you are in life, work, and the world. So talking to people directly about who you are is very powerful. You're also, going to want to have that, like I just said, it can be part of your website or your blog, how you put yourself out there. And then of course, there are all the social networking sites. And interestingly, there are many people who do not think of LinkedIn as a social networking site. They think about it as the place they go to do business. So, so there are all different ways of looking at this, but you really want to, to make sure that your brand is consistently and constantly out there. Okay, and purity. This is another way of looking at some of the things we were talking about. Vanity names, that is making sure that people, recognize that purity. So like I said, if you have a common name, you might want to make sure that it's there. On LinkedIn, it can also have to do with hashtags. My hashtag on LinkedIn is LinkedIn by Dumont, because that's a vanity hashtag that when people are following me, they can get to learn. Keywords, having those right words that attract people to you, the words that people look for in a search engine. Direct people who are going to talk about you, and then getting a high ranking in search engines in your results. Okay, so standing out in the crowd, I just mentioned some of this, so actually I'm going to skip through it. Common name, make that specific. Understand that people are sophisticated when it comes to searching, and know your keywords. Here I will make a point about people being sophisticated searchers. Google treats keywords differently now than it used to. There are short-term keywords and there are long-term keywords. So think of short-term keywords as 1 or 2 words. It might be hyphenated. Long-term keywords are keyword phrases. So, so they are longer, and Google doesn't just look for them in a list someplace. On your website, you certainly want to have keywords, but you also want those long-term keywords, or long tail keywords, they call them, and short tail keywords, I'm sorry, to show up in context, because that's how Google and LinkedIn rate them. So, you can't just have a list, say, in your LinkedIn profile that says specialties and lists all these keywords. It's not going to rank as high. You want to use those keywords in an organic way where they show up naturally in the context, of what you're saying. All right. And diversity can be about headshots, videos, images, and real-time content, meaning things like what we're doing right now, live streams. So just some more ideas. Now, I do want to talk briefly about video. It is so important on LinkedIn and on other social media too. It's the future. It really is. We are becoming more and more connected online. It's differentiating because people get to know your personality, and so they see you differently. And so it really, when you're watching me right now, you're getting an idea of who I am and how I operate and why I do what I do. Obviously I'm passionate about this, so it exudes your branding. And then finally, it's a complete communication. It gives people the closest experience they can have to have sitting down and having a conversation with you in person. Okay, and then finally, validation. Now in LinkedIn, these show up as recommendations, endorsements, and likes, comments, and shares. And these things are golden. We call them social proof, because those are other people saying, yeah, what this person is saying he or she does is what they do, and the results they are promising as part of their brand promise is exactly right. This is what I got from them. So they're endorsing, they're recommending, they're liking and sharing. And I think, Joyce Lynn, that you saw a comment that I made this week about one way that you can really highlight, those recommendations, because if you think about it on LinkedIn, you start up here and you scroll all the way down, your profile to the bottom to see those recommendations. Well, take a snippet, just 1 or 2 lines of a recommendation that really speaks about what you do, and put it in your about section at the top so that people get to that early on. Oh, so-and-so says, this person really is good at this. I'm going to keep reading. So all of those things are really, really important. Okay, and then finally there's exude. That's the third stage in the reach 1, 2, 3 process. The first was extract, the second one was express, and the third one is exude. And exude is all about, your brand environment and your brand identity. So, you want to manage your brand environment. Your office, if you're in the brick and mortar world. How you use your fonts and your colors and everything, and we'll go into that a little bit more in a minute. Your brand colors. And so brand colors, I want to be very, very clear about, are not your favorite colors. If you're going to wear garments that kind of express those, Hopefully you look good in that color, but you don't have to wear brand garments. One of my brand colors happens to be blue because blue stands for truth and honesty and knowledge and all those things. And I can wear navy. There are other blues I can't wear at all, but navy I can wear. So I can handle that one. Black is not one of my brand colors, although I saw recently that black is now considered a brand color, but I can't tell you what it means. You can look that one up. I'm not actually sure. I just saw it, in the last week. And then finally, it's your network. It's how you relate to people and build that network. So one of the ways that you can promote your brand color on LinkedIn is by having a custom background. So you want to be a backgrounder. It's a differentiation for your profile and it bolsters your brand. And in the next part of this presentation, I'm going to show you some examples of that. You want to know your brand colors, and it's color or colors. And I'm going to go into banners and get rid of, I'm going to hide that right now because there's a video link here. This takes you to a YouTube video that describes your brand colors. Now, just really, really briefly, I just talked about blue. Green stands for emotional and calming and caring for people. If you are of a certain age, you may remember when classroom chalkboards chalkboards, you may remember chalkboards, were green. And they often painted the walls of platforms green because that was a soothing color. It also stands for environment. So if you're in the environmentalist kind of area, that might be something that you would have. Yellow is exactly what we think of when we think of sunshine and, raising our voice, our faces to the sun and being cheerful and exuberant and supportive. Orange are people who are energetic and they project that energy, really, really powerfully. And I'm going to show you an example of someone who's a very strong orange in another part of the presentation. Red is all about passion, just really being out there. Really good, powerful speakers often have red as one of their brand colors. Red is my secondary brand color because you may have noticed that I'm extremely passionate, and people have been telling me that all my life. They've also said, you're really intense. And I can be very intense too. So your brand color is not necessarily your favorite color. Red is by no means a favorite color of mine, but it is about your personality and your characteristics. And purple stands for, it's really in two areas. One is spiritual and religious. Another one is royalty. And if you are in the United States and you think about a particular vocal artist who stood for both of those, that was Prince. Purple was definitely his color. Think of Purple Rain and all of that. But what a lot of people don't know about him was that he was also a Jehovah's Witness and went out and witnessed in his neighborhood every weekend. So, combining both of those. So brand color is it's a fascinating area. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for questions. Let me just see if I have, So let's stop here and take, not only am I going to take questions, but if anybody needs a bio break, this would be the time to break for it. Because after this, we're going to start a mic. So your brand color, it's blue. If anyone else on this knows your brand color and you just kind of really, really know what it is. Teresa, when you go to that link that I put up, and you'll get this in when I send out the replay, and I also send out the PDFs. So just scroll to that PDF, and it has that link there. And there are a lot of YouTube videos that have to do with brand color and brand identity, and that is one of them that talks about that. The particular one that I steered you towards is William Aruta's video, but there are a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about brand color. And that's kind of, I don't know about you, but, I use YouTube for a whole bunch of things. It's become kind of the place we go if we have to repair appliances or whatever we want to do. Okay, so Mike, you're very welcome. And I am going to just stop for a minute. I'm going to put up the photo of the first page of the next part. We're going to be talking specifically about LinkedIn, and let's be back by 1:25 at Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here, and I am also yes, I can take myself out of the screen. So I forgot it. It silences me too. So I'm going to remove myself from the screen for 5 minutes, and I will see you in 5 minutes. Okay, we're back. This question about hashtags, and Joyce, you asked a really good one on hashtags as to the optimum number of hashtags, and that is 3. They say you can have, and I mean, you can put in as many as you want, but LinkedIn will allow you to put in as many as you want, but the optimum number is 3 and no more than 5. And the second comment, I tried hashtags within content, then removed them. I didn't like reading it that way. Distracting and annoying. I absolutely agree. You see people who put hashtags throughout everything, and it just chops up whatever you're reading and what other people are reading, and it's annoying. So you only want to, when you post something in LinkedIn and use a hashtag, you only want to use them at the bottom. Don't put them, don't sprinkle them all through. It just is, totally annoying and a total turnoff. So really, really great comments there. Okay, so let's get started in the second part of this presentation. And this is all about LinkedIn. And I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics about how to do your profile and things like that. I do have a live stream that I do usually once a month. I know I have one coming up in February that goes specifically into the profile. So this is kind of an overview of LinkedIn in terms of promoting your brand on LinkedIn. And one thing that I would love feedback from those of you who are doing it right now, who are watching this, would be, is this something, if I were to do this as a day-long kind of workshop where you could actually use the workbook and go through and do this, with me, would this be something that you would be interested in? I don't have anything like that right now, but I would be interested in getting some feedback on that if you have some ideas about that. Okay, so let's get started. All right. In this section, we are going to talk about, still talk about brand and 3 steps, but they are a different 3 steps than we talked about in building your brand. And each step is going to have unexpected, kind of counterintuitive tips that I've got together for you. Some not really case studies, more examples, and then exercises, checklists, and resources. So again, there is I have 2 more resources that I want you to make that I will post for you, and I will also send out the links in the replay. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is this is what I call the lucrative LinkedIn system. And Mike, you've been in my class, so you will recognize some of this. This is the 4 stages that you need to include to build a sustainable business on LinkedIn. So the first stage is clarity. And in the clarity stage, it is so important, and so many people miss this, and it's the basis for your strategy. You can't have a strategy, an effective strategy for working LinkedIn, unless you're clear about these 3 things. One is your goals, and those are based on your business goals. What are you trying to accomplish on LinkedIn? Some people may just be trying to accomplish, may just want to become known as thought leaders right now. They may be promoting their book, and, so that's their goal. Other people may be developing a targeted network and trying to recruit new clients, and that's their biggest goal right now. So those call for different strategies. You have to know your niche. And your niche is based on both demographics and psychographics. And a lot of getting to know your niche is accomplished by actually talking with the people who would be your ideal clients, or who you think at least starting out would be your ideal clients. But on LinkedIn, if you are not at the point where you can really niche down and get really, really specific, then pick a target audience. It might be like most of the people who are in my niche are also in a larger target audience, which would be professional trainers and coaches. They are listed as an industry. These are 3 industries that you can look for on LinkedIn: professional trainers and coaches, service providers, and management consultants. So as a larger part, those would be my target audience. And then your personal brand, which is what we've been talking about. That second stage is awareness. Now, this is where you're going to be working on your profile, and your niche is very much a part of your profile, because you have to, the people that you want to buy from you have to know within a few seconds when they land on your profile that they're in the right place. So your profile is client-centered. It is directed towards them. There's also content marketing. This is the stage in which you really get clear on your themes and your messages, because they are very much part of your profile. And multimedia would go in here too, because multimedia, oh gosh, Google loves that multimedia. It loves those moving images. So you want to get multimedia in there. And you also want to learn, if you're going to use automation, how to use it responsibly. And so we talk about some of those things in that stage. The third stage is lead generation. And this is all about prospecting, being able to find the right clients on LinkedIn, being able to connect with them, and being able to nurture them. Now, a little bit earlier, I made mention of the social selling index. That is an index that LinkedIn uses to tell you how well you are doing social selling, or how well you are selling on LinkedIn. That's called social selling. And the index measures 4 things. The first is they call it your professional brand. It's your personal and digital brand. The second is finding the right people. So that's your prospecting. You're prospecting and inviting the right people to connect. The third is engaging with insights. Now, that always seems a little elusive to people. What it really means is that you are engaging with people in the news feed. You are liking or reacting to what they say, because it's no longer just the thumbs up. You can be applauding. You can have the, oh, I'm curious about this emoji. So different reactions. You comment on what they're saying, and then the big one, you share it with your connections. Now, it used to be that you would literally have to identify the people, have a list of them, and then try and follow your people that you have set out to nurture, to get known by in the news feed. Was a little bit more complicated, but now you can go to their profile and click that bell. There will be a bell on their profile that you can click and turn it dark, and that means you will be notified when they post something. Okay, so that makes that whole what did I just say? With insights, engaging with insights, part of social selling, so much easier. It's just so much easier. And then the fourth one is, what is it? Nurturing, building relationships. And that is all part of here. So the prospecting, connecting, and nurturing All of those are represented by the social selling index, and the first one, promoting your brand, is at the top. So, all four of those measurements of the social selling index are represented in this graphic that you're seeing. Okay, and then finally, the final stage is sales and analysis. That's learning how to do a sales conversation without being, well, in my sales script, without being pushy, phony, or manipulative. There are plenty of pushy, phony, and manipulative people on LinkedIn. That does not happen to be the way that I teach LinkedIn. There's analysis, and in this first stage, clarity, when you set your goals, you also set your metrics so that you can be once a month checking your metrics and knowing whether you are on target to meet your goals or not, whether you are doing what needs to be done or whether you need to tweak that strategy a little bit and try something different. Okay, and then finally, rinse and repeat, start back. So you want to be vigilant about watching what you're doing in terms of whether you are meeting those goals, because what you don't want to do is go through 4 quarters and at the end of the 4th quarter go, oops, I didn't make my sales. Well, anyone who's an entrepreneur has to make sales, right? You have to be able to do this. So very, very important. Okay, so let's just take a look at LinkedIn for a minute. Over 900 million members, growing by leaps and bounds. Now, is it the biggest platform? Absolutely not. In fact, it doesn't even register on some of the indices that will show you, the highest ranking social media platforms. But it is the only one that's dedicated to business. So while, a lot of people on other platforms, there are a lot of people on Facebook who aren't on LinkedIn. There are a lot of people on Twitter who aren't on LinkedIn or on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're talking about who are not on LinkedIn. LinkedIn members are on those platforms, however, but they are not on there for the same reasons. So, you can reach those people and you can use those platforms to drive people to your LinkedIn activity. But if you're only going to concentrate on one place to build your business, it's going to be LinkedIn. And here's another really good fact. LinkedIn members are more affluent than those on the other platforms. Bingo. Not only will they appreciate what you have to sell, but they can afford it. That makes a difference. And 80% of social media leads come from LinkedIn. Try that one on for size. And then finally, like I said before, your LinkedIn profile, and particularly that headline, is prime real estate on Google. Okay, before you jump into doing a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn, you want to be mindful of this. You want to be, as I said, clear about your goals, and you want to know your strategy before you get started. So take some time thinking through what you want to do and then build your strategy for getting there. So you want to note those major pieces of your brand, because whatever strategy you have, you're going to be promoting your brand. And those values, passions, skills, strengths, personality characteristics are all important. In branding, we say flaunt your quirks. And you will see things like, one of the ones I've seen is people that say, in their profile headline, they might say funny and approachable, meaning, I have a sense of humor and I'm easy to approach. You don't have to be hesitant about getting to know me. So those kinds of things make a difference. All right. Now, here's another thing that I'm making available to you. This is the LinkedIn worksheet. Now, I want to point out to you that this worksheet In part, there are parts of it that are based on the 360 reach, that instrument that I told you about, but most of it isn't. So just know that you can use it with or without the 360 reach. And let me go into my banners and find that one. Okay. So that's the hashtag for that one. And I'm also, if you just want to cut and paste, I'm going to drop it in the chat for you too. And whatever platform you're on, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you should be seeing this. Okay, so that's your checklist, and I want you to use this because it takes you through and kind of summarizes what you need in your LinkedIn worksheet and how to use LinkedIn. Okay, the 3 C's of LinkedIn. Remember, we had 3 C's of personal branding. There are 3 C's for LinkedIn, and those are content, contacts, and clients. And we're going to go through each of those. Content, contacts, and clients. Okay, so step 1 is content. All right, so when you're putting out content, when you are creating your profile, you want to focus on your brand. Not just your brand statement. You want that brand to be evident throughout your profile and in everything that you do on LinkedIn. You want that profile to be 3-dimensional. And one of the other things I'm going to make available to you in a few minutes is a way to, create a draft of a 3-dimensional brand bio, which will help you do that. And then finally, you want to be real in the virtual world. That's all about authenticity again. Okay, so content. You want to tell your story. And on your profile, you want to tell that story. You want to hint at it in your headline. Remember what I said about the woman who said she was elected mayor because of a great executive elevator speech. That kind of tells a little bit of her story. You definitely want, I didn't change it. It used to be called the summary. It's now called your about section. You want to tell your story there. And if any of you are interested in learning more about storytelling, if you go in, if you're in the class or have taken the class, that's in the vault where you can go and find it. But I interviewed Ben Joya. I did 3 different interviews with him talking about how to tell your story. So those are really golden. If you go to my profile, or if you look on, back on my events, you can go to my profile and look in my posts, and you're going to see those live streams that showed up. So that's available to you. You're also going to tell it in your experience sections. Hold on a sec. Your LinkedIn profile is not like a resume. You want to just get that into your head that it is not a resume. It's going to talk about your experience, but you do it in a different way. And you want to talk about your story, different aspects of your story in each section. You want to make each section of your experience really speak to your ideal clients. And I was just talking to somebody earlier today or yesterday. In fact, I mentioned her earlier. She had, a physical yoga and massage business. I've known her for years, and when the pandemic hit, it wiped that part of her business out. So she revamped and now came back, and she has a completely different niche. She still has her brick and mortar business. It's coming back now, but she's really, really gotten excited about this new niche and this new program. So that's part of her story. And one of the great things you can do with LinkedIn is you can take your experience and you can talk about different facets of it. You can talk about different programs, or you can talk about different industries if you work with different industries. Maybe, Mike, I know that you work with different industries. You do the same kind of thing for them, but you go into different kinds of industries. You could have different parts of your experience that talked about this. Yes, Connie, this is recorded, so don't worry about it. I'll send you out the replay. Thanks for attending. Okay, so you're going to want to tell your story in all these different areas and use that experience section to really speak to different niches or different experiences that you have, or different programs. Okay, you're also going to want to show validation. And we talked about that before, recommendations and endorsements. And LinkedIn has a new feature for your profile. Endorsements you do by you create your skills section, and that's what people can endorse. And in those endorsements, now when you go on LinkedIn, when you go on your profile, you're going to see up near the headline section, you're going to see a button that says add a section. And in there, you can add skills. Now, what that does is it will add, once you add a skill and you just start typing in something, like I could start typing in personal branding, or I could start typing in personal, and it will bring up a list of things. And, I'd see personal branding and I would select that one. Then it's going to take you through and it's going to say, where have you used this skill? And it will bring up each of your experiences. It will bring up your education, your certificates and licenses, all of those things. So now your skills will be part of every one of those sections. And that is fabulous for search engine optimization. And it's going to bring you up higher when people are searching for you on LinkedIn. So really a new, very new, powerful feature of LinkedIn. So, you are going to be able to bring up all of these things and do so much better at providing that social proof that you are who you say you are, and you get the results you say you get. And then finally, you want to make sure your profile is complete for a couple of reasons. One, LinkedIn gives you brownie points for filling in all the sections. Okay, so you want to make sure you have every section filled in. Secondly, it gives you more opportunities to use those keywords. Okay, so you want to keep filling in those sections, using those words. Use them in what we just talked about, the skills section, but also use them organically in your narrative. So have them show up organically. The one thing you do not want to do with your narrative, and it came up earlier about hashtags, is you do not want to do what we call keyword stuffing. And that is trying to make sure that you get every single keyword in that narrative, and it just chops it up and it doesn't read well. You want it to flow. Now, I'm a former English grammar teacher. I started out my career as a 7th grade English teacher, which is probably one of my proudest accomplishments, and makes me a much better trainer than anything I ever learned in teaching in higher ed. And one of the things that I always worked with my students, was making sure that when they wrote something, each sentence flowed into the next one. Okay. And in the terms of your profile, you want each of those sentences to be so compelling that they will go on to the next sentence. Now, the thing that is different from what I used to teach my students is that on social media, you do not want to write long paragraphs, where you have that main sentence and then you have your supporting sentences, because it looks too dense on social media. You only want to have 1 to 2 sentences before you space and have more white space. It's an advertising concept that's been around for years. You want more white space, and you will see some of the most powerful ads that you see in magazines. I can think of one that was for a very, very expensive perfume, Joy. At one time, it was the most expensive perfume in the world. It might still be, but it was just all this white space and this one picture of a bottle of Joy. Very small picture, big enough to see, but that was it. It was just this powerful statement, totally about the white space. So don't forget that white space. Okay, most profiles do not work, and here's why. One, they're Me Too. They sound like everybody else's profiles. It's okay to go look at other people's profiles. In fact, you want to look at other people's profiles because you want to know how you're like them and how you're different, so that you can create that differentiating factor and stand out from them, but you don't want it to sound like theirs. I had someone who copied my profile word for word, including his titles and I mean, just word for word, verbatim. And I wrote to him and I said, not only is this dishonest and plagiarism, but it's not going to work for you. Because for one thing, you are not a master person on digital brand strategist, and anybody who checks that out is going to know that. But for the other thing, you haven't had all these experiences. It's going to show up, you're going to be found out very quickly. It's not going to take people much to figure that one out. So, you don't want to do the Me Too business, and you don't want to be the best kept secret. I used to work for a university that said they were the best kept secret. Well, if you're trying to get students, that's not a really good idea. So, there are times on LinkedIn where you're going to want to spy on your competitors, and you can go to your settings and privacies and choose the anonymous setting, but don't forget to turn it back on. You're going to want to turn off the setting that tells everybody what you're doing, when you make a change on your profile, because when you make changes on your profile, if you make a big change, you want that on. But if you're going in and changing commas or changing, anything, little minute things, you're going to irritate the heck out of people by constantly telling them that. So you don't want to be the best kept secret and always have it turned off so nobody sees when you're making changes or nobody's drawn to your profile, but you also don't want to annoy the heck out of them. Okay? They're passive versus active. Your profile has to have a call to action. You have to tell people what to do next. And that may be, linking to your free gift or a lead magnet. That might be signing up for a free consultation. That might be taking a quiz. There are lots of people out there and some very good people out there who can build quizzes for your website. And then you can link to that quiz. There are even, in fact, somebody gave me the name of a new software yesterday, and I wrote it down. Okay, I'm going to look that up and get it to you because it's not right here. I'm putting my hand on it immediately. But there is a new platform where you can build your own quiz and put it on your webpage. But I also know someone who is really talented at developing quizzes that are going to really bring people in, because you want the right questions too. So if you want that information, just let me know. Okay. So passive versus active, not telling them where to go. Well, not telling them where to go, but telling them what to do next. No targeting. You're not talking to your ideal clients. You're just talking about you. No, you need to talk about them. Binary, meaning it's flat. It just doesn't stand off the page, and it doesn't, images, video particularly, is really going to make that pop. And then finally, it's incongruent, meaning one of two things. It's not representative of who you really are. It's incongruent with you, so it's incongruent with your brand, or it's incongruent in terms of different sections. You aren't promoting a consistent brand as you go through it. So two ways, that it can be incongruent. Okay. So before you do it, you want to gather some content. You want to have your bio. You want to have your headshot, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And you want your thought leadership, things that you've done that you can add there, and do a computer audit. I did this a while ago and went, oh my gosh, I had forgotten about all this content that I've developed over the last 10 years. You've got a lot more than you think you have to set you apart on your profile and to use and revise to put out as content. So all of those things can be used. White papers can, if you are in an industry where people want to know about your thought leadership, that's something that you really want. If you've done presentations, you can turn those into videos, or now one of the most popular content types on LinkedIn is carousel ads. So you can take some of those slides, convert them to PDFs and upload them as carousel ads for the newsfeed. Okay, update your profile in private. This is what I was just saying. Don't alert your contacts to every mistake or every change you make. So you want to be secretive. You're going to see a lot of these. Another one, be egotistical. Go into your contact information and make your public URL reflect your name or some other kind of tag that people know you by. Okay. If your name is really, really common, but you're known as the Uncommon Success Coach, then you could use that. But make sure that it's something that people are going to use to find you. If you can use your name, that's probably the best. Okay, this makes it easy for people to go directly to your profile, and it also shows that you know your stuff about LinkedIn. Okay. Another one, be in their face. Now, by this, I mean, you need a headshot that is facing into the camera, is smiling, and takes up 80% of the area. Okay, you want it to be professional in the way that it looks. You want to be dressed in the way that people dress professionally in your industry. If you're in a tech field and everybody wears polo shirts, dress in a polo shirt. That's fine. If you are an accountant and you're expected to be in a suit, dress in a suit. And, be careful about makeup, about jewelry, about all of those kinds of things. You do not have to have a professional photographer take your headshot. If you want to, absolutely great. Okay. LinkedIn user, I can't see your name. So you can do one of two things. You can go to settings and privacy, and you can change it so that change in your visibility sections by adding LinkedIn adding StreamYard as a place that they can see you, or you can just email me at dumontowen.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just say if we're not connected already, just say that if we're not connected, then just go to my profile, say you saw this and ask me to connect. And if we are connected, just shoot me a message that says, hey, I want that expert and I want the platform, and I will get those to you. And anybody who's watching this on the replay, those ways are a way that you can get all these things too. So, don't look away from the camera in any way, because that looks like you're not paying attention to your own content. And it also gives people the feeling that you might be a little shifty. I know in some cultures, looking people directly in the eye is not considered polite, but in the business culture, and on LinkedIn, you do want to make eye contact with the camera. Okay. Now, you want to make your headline compelling by using keywords. So be headstrong. Your headline is one of those first things that people are going to see, right? They're going to see your banner, your photo, and your headline. And your headline is keyworded. Now, your banner is just, oh my gosh, that's a perfect opportunity for your brand colors. You can use your logo. You can have a saying there, your tagline. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with your banner. And if you don't want to pay for a graphic designer, here's a little hint. You can go to canva.com, canva.com, and just enter into the search field LinkedIn banners. It's going to bring up a whole bunch of LinkedIn banners that are already the right size, and you can change the colors and add different things to them. It's really cool. I just warn you, Canva can be highly addictive. So be careful. You want to make your headline compelling with those keywords. And we're going to talk more about headlines in a minute. And you also just, want to make it very, very powerful. Okay. And here we go into the headline. You're going to want your title, your keywords, and a little bit of zing. And that zing is that personal brand statement, or it comes from that personal brand statement. So your title, I want to get very clear on this. LinkedIn's headline is a great place for creativity, but be careful with your title. People are not searching for a chief inspirator. Okay. They're not looking for the Sherlock Holmes of accountants. They're looking for accountants. They may be looking for, maybe you're an editor, or you're a copywriter, or there are lots of things they could be looking for. But they are not looking for a chief inspirator. They are also, now some people are going to search on the term CEO, but if you founded your own company, yes, you can call yourself a CEO. You can call yourself the founder. That's okay. But you have to clarify that, because, my company's called Dumont and Associates. If I put, and I don't, because I don't choose to use this, but if I put founder Dumont and Associates, well, what the heck does that mean? Somebody may know my name and be searching for it. They may know of my company, but otherwise they're not going to find me. So you want to make sure that your title is clear and that it includes those key words that people are going to look for. People will look for me in lots of different ways: personal branding, LinkedIn expert, LinkedIn coach, trainer, all kinds of different things. But they're not going to look for founder. Okay, so you want to be careful about how you do your title. And then finally, that zing comes from your brand. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. Okay, first, here are 3 different headlines. 1, award-winning copywriter with a knack for making headlines sing. Okay, this person has copywriters. So that's a very specific term that people look for on LinkedIn. So copywriter is great. Award-winning, if you're a resume writer, award-winning, if whatever you do, if you've won awards, great way. That's some of that zing. With a knack for making headlines sing, well, this copywriter got it right, right? They can make your headline, just boom, pull people in from nowhere. So that's a great headline. On the next one, best-selling author. Author is a key word. Speaker, motivational speaker. Motivational speaker is a keyword phrase, and speaker is a key word. Business is a key word. Visionary is a key word. Advisor is a key word. CEO is a key word. Manufacturing is a key, all these key words. But, they also worked in a little bit of the zing by saying best-selling, visionary is still, that still feeds into the zing. Advisor still feeds into that zing. So you want to make sure that you have that combination. When I look at that, if I were looking for, somebody for the stage who could really motivate people and talk about business in a way that was, that really conveyed the vision for the future, or the vision for what their business could become, I would gravitate towards this person. Okay, and another one, ICF, meaning International Coaching Federation. I normally would recommend against using acronyms. You can, because they also have, in this case, they also put certified executive coach. And executive coach is a keyword phrase. Coach is a keyword phrase. Certified, so that inspiring female executives in large technology companies to succeed. Okay, those are all, female executives, tells you exactly who this person's niche is. She's not looking just for any executive. She's looking for female executives in technology companies who want to get ahead. So all of this makes this a really great headline. Next, okay, here's an example of what I think is a really powerful piece of what I call the branded content. Your branded content is your banner, your photo, and your headline. So this is Randy Bussin. Randy is also a personal brand strategist who specializes in coaching high power executives or people who are rising stars and moving in that direction. So when you look at her banner, first of all, her brand color is blue. And her banner she did in, I think, Monkey. And she's taken 3 pictures and put them together. You can do this on LinkedIn too, that show her in different aspects of her coaching business. And then she's made this great headline. Trusted advisor, coach for rising stars, execs, entrepreneurs. So you've got advisor, coach, executives, entrepreneurs, capitalizing on strengths, illuminate your personal brand, return on investment, stand out, and open doors. Great headline for somebody who's looking for someone who can help them get to that next level in the, into the C-suite. And her photo is just perfect. She happens to be someone who looks great in her brand color. Congratulations. But her hair is styled professionally. Her makeup is conservative but warm. She's looking directly into the camera, and she has this big old smile on her face. She looks approachable. So all of this makes this a really powerful headline section or banner photo and headlines. So really, really great example. Here's another one. I told you when we were talking about branding, I'd show you someone who was orange, who had an orange brand color. And Dibb, who is another master personal brand strategist. There are only a handful of us in the world, so we know each other. Does a fabulous job. Now, this is just a powerful, powerful banner. This would not work for everyone by any means, but it works for her. And I probably, if I were working with someone for the first time, I might not say something so bold, but remember I said orange is energy. And that is this woman to the T. Look at her photo. She's looking directly into the camera. She has a smile that would light up Manhattan, which is where she was when I first met her. She had, she's looking directly into that camera. She's professionally, professional makeup, hair, all of that. And, her head and shoulders are taking up 80% of the space. Excellent, excellent photo. She also in her headline. Now this is where she excels, because she works with career coaches, career professionals, and she takes their content and she polishes it up. She's not a copywriter. She was for years, but she's not a copywriter. But she is so damned good. She's just incredible. So her headline just expresses that. Brand storyteller. Brand and storytellers are two of the hottest keywords on LinkedIn right now. Editor, polisher, because that's what she does. Writing strategy coach, all good, all keywords. Strategy, another great keyword. Writing, writing coach. And here's her zing. I help busy, gutsy career pros get unstuck. Fast, fun, done. And I think anybody who wants, someone to polish up their resume, and they're a career, or their profile, and they're a career coach, or they want, their web page reviewed, or even an article or a book chapter, and this is the woman to do it. And it would just, they would jump at this. So it really, really does a great job. Okay, now let's talk about branding your about section. First, should it be first or third person? That depends. I almost always say first person. There are a few exceptions. You may be in an industry where people really value third person descriptions. So, or you may be an author, and it may be, your author's, what's on the back of your books or in that intersection or something. So there are times when a third person works. In general, you want people, when they land on your profile, to feel like they're having a conversation with you. And one thing that I didn't mention, and I'm going to go back here and just show you, in some profiles, when you land on them, you'll see this on mine. When you first land on it, you're going to see a little bit of movement there. That's a video. That's a 30-second cover video that you can put on your profile with your mobile phone. You can only do it with your mobile phone, and it's only 30 seconds. But it's a great way to make people feel they're having a conversation with you. So you, in most cases, want to use first person, because you want people to get that hint of who you are and really feel like they're having that conversation. What to include? This is all about making it client-centered. We are, and I can remember struggling with this when I started out. We want people to know we're the best, right? So we want to hit them with our credentials or what makes us special. And they only want to know one thing. They want to know how you can help them. So the first thing you want to do is let them know that they have landed in the right place. So that's where knowing your niche comes in. You want to be able to address their challenges. You want to make that client centered. So address their problems first. Maybe just, I wouldn't do more than three, more than 3 points, but address their problems first and your solutions second. That's a client-centered profile. Okay, and you want to make it three-dimensional, and we talked about that in terms of branding. And you want it to tell a story. Okay, so you do want to know your keywords, and you do want to use them repeatedly, but like we have said, you want to use them organically. You want to distill everything that you learned about your brand and put that into your profile. Your key values, your passions. You want all of this to just leap off the page. Your strengths, your differentiation, your point of view. Now, this is so important because, and I've talked to people, I know what they're saying. On your profile, you definitely want it, and you want it in what you post. Point of view is so important. Some people are hesitant to put their point of view out there when they post something, and it's true. I have seen people attacked when somebody didn't agree with their point of view, but that attacker is the one who's wrong, not the person who exhibited their point of view. And LinkedIn is getting much, much better. If you report a comment, they will look into it. I just had a situation where someone wasn't hassling me in something I posted. They were sending me messages that were harassing. And before I even had any time to do it, in fact, I didn't. It took me a long time to think about it because LinkedIn tagged it. They tagged those comments and said, "Do you want to report it?" Doing something mean on LinkedIn will land people in LinkedIn jail. So don't be afraid to express your point of view, and don't take that from someone because that's not right. I come out of higher ed, and there was a phrase we used consistently: with all due respect, I disagree. you know Express your point of view, have a different point of view, but have a point of view. I'm of a certain age when I remember a couple of columnists who were in the newspaper. Well, of a certain age that remembers newspapers, but they were two sisters. There was Ann Landers and Abby. I don't remember what her last name was, but they were advice columnists and they were competitors. But they were people who totally disagreed with what they said, would read it anyway because of their point of view. And sometimes, somebody would write in for advice and they would, just put them in their place and say, "You are dead wrong about this." They had a point of view. They didn't shred them. They didn't cuss them out. They didn't tell them they were obnoxious, SOBs, but they definitely disagreed with what they were saying. That can be done respectfully. And having a point of view means you're not milquetoast. You're not, Mr. or Ms. Bland. You are more exciting and more interesting. And that personality, you want it to sound like you. Okay, you don't want to write somebody else's, in somebody else's voice. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence right now and being able to use it to, write articles and things for you. I'm sure they can write LinkedIn profiles. Well, for one thing, you better be careful because those bots just go out and they gather information. They don't know whether it's true or false, and they certainly don't know if it's plagiarized. You have to use other things in context with it, or when you're using it. But also, it's not going to have your tone of voice, and people really want to know you. Okay. So express your point of view to stand out. Be opinionated. People want your point of view. And if you're trying to please all people, you know this, you're not going to please anyone. I'm going to turn off that banner now so that you can see the bottoms of these. Okay, why am I not seeing? Oh, here we go. Hide. Okay, it'll just show you the bottoms now, and I will give you these again. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about a 3D brand summary, and I'm going to be putting that banner up in a minute to show you something you can use with this. Your 3D brand summary means your brand summary that shows you in 3 dimensions: work, life, and the world. Yes, LinkedIn is a business platform, but we do business. We are more likely to do business with people we like, with people who come across as people, not some, flat roboton. Okay, so that 3-dimensional brand summary is what's going to make it possible for you to create a really rich, attracting, compelling about section and experience sections. Okay, so, and let me stop right now. I just took that other banner down. Let me show you this one. And I am going to also drop this in the chat so that you can get a copy of it. And I will also send these links out with the replay. So you're covered. Whoops. Here we go. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to give you a 3D bio workbook, and this makes it a lot easier for you to write it because you write it first in the third person, and you make sure that you're including all these different elements that are compelling, and then you can change it to the first person. So your 3D brand summary sets the scene. It helps you gather content. It helps you create a draft of your about section, and then you can test it in 3 different ways to make sure that it's working for you. Now, hold on. I'm just going to, because I've already talked about you want to tell your story. So this is what goes into your 3D brand summary. It's all those things that make you 3-dimensional. You don't want, remember I said you don't want a passive profile. You don't want a flat profile. You want to be represented in the true you. These are all the pieces of your brand. What's important to you and excites you, your valued values and your potent passions. What makes you astonishing? These are your accomplishments. Most people, when they write a LinkedIn profile, will have all their accomplishments, all of those facts, and you want some really amazing facts in there, but you don't want that to be the only thing that's in there. You want to bring other stuff in too. Yes, you want to maybe have a couple of interesting stats. If you look in my experience section where I come out of higher ed, a lot of the stuff I have in there is statistical because, we always had great placement rates and things like that. So if statistics are something that would make people want to know more about you, then you want those in there. Quirky characteristics, like I said, flaunt your quirks. People say about me that I have either a highly evolved sense of humor or what's the other one? A weird sense of humor. So you can take your pick. But you want those, you want to make, if you've got a quirk that people are going to relate to, that's fine. I know someone who is a ukulele player. He has that in his headline because people ask him about it. And I used to have behind me, because I'm a ukulele player too, I used to have one on the desktop behind me. I decided to get rid of it after a while, but you can bring those things in. Credible credentials. This is those awards, best selling, awarded for, those kinds of things, and also testimonials and quotes. Remember that I said when we were talking about branding that when you're writing in your about section, one really effective way to do it is to just bring up one or two sentences from one of your recommendations, or it may not be in your recommendations. It may be on your website, or it may be a response that somebody did to your 360 Reach survey. Just identify where it came from. But, have a couple of those things that really make you stand out. So you want to talk about your super strengths, your superpowers, things that you do better than anyone else on earth. Well, maybe not anyone, but because there are 900 million people, remember, on LinkedIn, but you do better than most. And that's good enough for me, because there are, gosh, I can't even remember, hundreds of thousands of people who do what I do on LinkedIn. And you have to figure that there may be someone who's been doing it longer, or they do it differently. And that's okay, because people gravitate towards different people. The people that love me do it for a reason. They like the way I do things. Okay, your 3D brand summary workbook, that is what I have down here. I called it the 3D bio workbook, but it's your 3D brand summary workbook. And so you're going to get that too, so you can work through it. Now, a few more things that I'm going to make interesting. I'm going to turn off this banner now just so that you can see things. Hide. Okay, go back to comments. Okay, so be greedy. Use every bit of space. And remember, I said that's because you want to create a complete brand picture. You want to do those keywords, and you want to use short paragraphs plus plenty of white space. And also, as I mentioned, LinkedIn wants you to use every bit of space. So when you're doing your about section, it used to be 2,000 spaces, I think, or characters. I think it's now 2,500. Use them all. Use them all. And be aware that your word processor counts words differently and characters differently than LinkedIn. So get up to those 2,500 characters, including white spaces. And then when you put it on LinkedIn, you're going to have to edit a little bit, which is really great. Edit. So, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to want to do all the other things too. Okay. Be a clone. This is what I was talking about. Don't limit yourself to one description per experience. It gives you more space to talk about your accomplishments or your niche or your program. So, don't just have one place. You can talk about your company and have 3 different niches that you serve. Okay. Know what you want to be known for. Be limited. Personal branding requires focus. You have to focus on what it is that you want to be known for. You can't be everything. And you know that if you try to appeal to everyone, you're not going to appeal to anyone. Endorsements and recommendations. Now endorsements, what you want to keep in mind that only the top 3 show before they have to click see more. So you want to have the ones that you most want at the top. And a great way to get endorsements is by endorsing other people. Do what I say, not what I do, because I forget to do this. But it really is. So you want your most important ones in those top 3. And then you can reorder them in the endorsement sections. There are 2 little lines by each of your endorsements, and you can if you click on those lines and hold them, you can reorder them. And you want them rank ordered by the ones that you think are the most important. And there are two schools of thought here. One is use all the use all the ones that it gives you a choice of, and I think you can have 50 right now, so that there are more things that you can be endorsed for. Other people will tell you only put the top 10, because that's going to limit the things that people can endorse you for, and it's going to drive those numbers on the endorsements up faster. People can only see that you have 99 plus endorsements for a skill on the desktop. I believe it's coming or has come where you can see the exact number of endorsements on mobile. Okay, and then recommendations, make them count in every way that I've said. And one thing that I will tell you about recommendations is that it's much more impressive to have 5 to 10 recommendations that are from the last year or 2 years than it is to have 120 recommendations that are 10 years old or that are very non-specific. I had a guy one time who connected with me, and then in his next message to me said, please recommend me. Here's the link. And I went and I looked at his recommendations. He had 200 and some recommendations, and every single one of them were, so-and-so is impressive. So-and-so is the real thing. So-and-so is a great guy. I mean, they were meaningless. They were absolutely meaningless. They should be specific, what it is. And LinkedIn makes you, when you ask for recommendations now, get very specific about, they have to tell you, they have to put how they know you, whether there are a number of requirements now. So they're much more specific. It was really ridiculous before, but ask for one a month. That's a good habit to get into. Put it on your calendar. Ask for one a month. I just put on my list yesterday that there are 3 people who took my course that I never asked for endorsements, and they wrote endorsements for my landing page. So, so I need to send them a message and say, hey, recommend me on LinkedIn. Okay. Get recommendations from respective leaders. Be a social climber. Brand association. It's not only what's said, but who says it. If you can get links, if you can connect with people who are big in your industry, then do it and get recommendations from them. Get to know them. If they have a product, if they have a book, write to them, tell them how much you enjoyed their product or their book, buy it. And then it's a small amount of money to invest in becoming associated with that influencer. Okay. Not for everyone. I'm not saying go out and spend a lot of money if you don't have it, but that's one way that you can do it. Okay. Be ungrateful. And this means only accept endorsements for key skills. You don't, and maybe you can be known for 100 things right now. It used to be 50. I must have updated this, so it must be 100 now. It's going to take forever for people to endorse you on all those. The fewer skills for which you're endorsed, the stronger your brand. So, one school of thought is definitely to have less skills listed there so you get more endorsements. Okay. Okay. Reuse content to enhance your profile. Okay. This is all about being lazy. You can, if you put out a post, feature it on your LinkedIn profile. If you did a video on another platform, put it on your LinkedIn profile. It can't be longer than 10 minutes on your profile. And it's better to upload it than to connect with it as well. If you do it in your featured section, you have to connect with it. But 10 minutes, it's better to have native video. And if you have live video, your latest live will show up on your profile. So another way to check on this video would be to go back to it. Now, LinkedIn is not like YouTube. It does not have a playlist that people can look for. One way to do that, and I'm going to do that as soon as it's on the list, is to create an article in LinkedIn and then have links to all of your different videos and live streams so that people can access that and see your list and access all those. So you want to reinforce your brand messages and you want to increase the visibility of your thought leadership. And this also goes to posting content. If you posted an article, you can then redo that as a top 10 list or do research on it with a poll, or take that presentation and make it a carousel ad, or take something that was geared towards Facebook and put a business spin on it and reuse it. So being lazy is a very big part of what you do. In my class, and I'm not promoting my class. I do have a 6-week class that is starting this coming Tuesday. It is, well, there's one person on here who has taken it. And it is, it's a 6-week class. It is priced low right now because I'm not using my JV partners to promote it. So, it's a reasonable cost. And it does go into all this. And one of the things that we're doing in the class is there's a 1-day workshop on how to do content that really attracts people, how to do content that gets a lot of engagement on LinkedIn, how to find your best avenues, and then how to create your content planning calendar and being lazy plan, repurposing plans. So all of that's in there. And that's the last you're going to hear about it from me. If you're interested, just send me a message on LinkedIn or email me. Okay, so integrate multimedia into your profile. And I've been talking about this over and over again. Be flashy, that media is just going to make you stand out. It's going to up your Google juice. It's going to do just wonderful things for you. And I will tell you, when I first started doing video, I was so intimidated. Get on free Zoom, just keep practicing, do recordings. If you want to do a video for your profile in that little circle where your face is, get on your phone. Just do it over and over until you get one where you feel good about it. And do it. It's intimidating at first, or maybe it's not for you. And I did a number of live streams that I forgot to turn the mic on at first. So, I mean, if there's a mistake to be made, I have made it. So, I am the perfect example here of someone who was totally scared to death about this. And now I do it anyway. Okay, step 2 is contacts. You want to build your contact list. You want to build your network. But the best time to invite someone is after you've already gotten their attention. And that's what I was talking about with, commenting on what they do in the news feed. Joining groups is another great way. Groups are not as good as they used to be. Some of them are really spammy, so look at them, investigate them, decide which ones you really want to be. But when you comment on something that somebody else has said or is doing, you get their attention. And that's when to send them an invitation to connect, kind of get that dialogue going before you even invite them. And always invite them from their profile because you can add a note. Okay. And make that network focused. Only connect with the people who are going to be useful to you as potential clients, as referral partners, or people who can promote you. Respond to requests. When people message you, message them back. Answer them. That's how they know you're not a bot. And that's how you get that dialogue going, that conversation, because people are not going to buy your premium programs and services unless they've had a conversation. So you want to get that dialogue going, and then you can invite them into a conversation off of LinkedIn, which is where you're going to sell your services. And then, like I said, join groups. Okay. Be self-absorbed. Do not send out connection requests until you've got your profile exactly the way you want it. Now you're going to change it. It's going to evolve, but make sure it's as good as you can get it right now. And because people are going to make a decision about you based on the state of your profile. It doesn't matter what strategy you're using. Whether you're posting every day, whether you are going out and participating in groups, whether you're live streaming or doing newsletters or podcasting, they are always going to go to your profile. So your profile has to be great, and it has to have calls to action, one in your about section, one in each of your experience section that tells them the next step. Okay? Okay, contacts. Life is who you know. So really, really work those contacts, maximize your contacts, nurture them. You've all had sales spam. The people who invite you to connect, and before you can even write back to them, they hit you with a sales pitch. That's a bot. And people get that. So really nurture them. And remember, when I talked about the social selling index, LinkedIn social selling index, building relationships is one of those key factors that you need to do. Okay, customize your connection requests. Be forward. Do it from their profile because it's the only place where you can add a note. It's more likely that they will accept your request. It sets you apart from all the other people, and it shows you care about them. Say something, and it can be something pretty simple. It can be something that you pull out of their about section. It can be their banner. Maybe they have this amazing banner. It may be that they're an alum from the same university that you are, or they used to work at the same company, or they work in the same industry, but in a different capacity. Whatever it is, make a comment so they know you are not just inviting 100 people a week, which is the maximum, and you're doing it with, automation, and you don't really care a fig about them. You're just trying to get, more contacts in your list. No, show them you care. All right, reach out to your fellow alumnus, just what I was talking about. Be a pastus, meaning that you truly believe in the past, in history. A great way to connect with alums. And maybe you went to a community college that basically everybody knows everybody had a bad experience. You may both have had a terrible experience, but you both had the same experience. So you're going to want to connect with alums because they are more likely to want to help you. They feel an immediate kinship. Okay, join targeted groups, and please check out those groups. I talked to somebody yesterday who is a career coach, who is watching all the layoffs in the tech companies, and has just started a new LinkedIn campaign geared towards those tech companies. So she is joining groups that are geared towards technology on LinkedIn. Very smart. So she's being opportunistic. She's contacting those. You used to be able to contact with a certain number of group members directly on LinkedIn. You can't do that anymore, but you can start commenting and get to know them, and then invite them, and say, hey, we're in the same group. I loved your article, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they're more likely to connect, and you can avoid upgrading to premium. Step 3, clients. Okay, to get clients, you need to increase your visibility. You need to expand your network, a targeted network, and you need to research the people that you're connecting with. Okay, research their niche. Those of you who are in industry and in B2B, you know the importance of your research. I have a friend who is a sales coach who strictly teaches people how to sell to businesses. He's remarkable at it. And he teaches them how to do that research because it's so important. Need his name, drop me a line. I will give it to you. Always happy to promote people who are good at what they do. Okay, develop a strategy for sharing other people's content. Be a shoplifter. That doesn't mean that you are plagiarizing. It means you are sharing their content in the news feed. Okay, you are building relationships with them. Now, one trick for doing real quick comments on a news feed is to take a snippet out of what they said. Maybe they had one sentence in their post that was really powerful. Copy that section, put it in your comment, and tell them, and then say something about that one, even if it's just, this says it all, but you can also say, notice this. One of my things that I like to do is say, if you could only offer one piece of advice on this topic, what would that be? Because that gives them an open-ended question that they can respond to, and it gets them more engagement. Okay, express your point of view. If you are sharing somebody's content in the news feed, which is a really powerful strategy, you don't want to just share it. You want to comment on it. Okay, this is maybe it's somebody's top 10 list. Great list. Really pay attention to this. I particularly find point 10, really great. Or you can say, with the exception of point 10, I think this is good. This is very good advice. I would respectfully disagree with this point because, you're still doing them a great favor and you're doing yourself a favor. You're doing them a favor because you are getting them more engagement. You're doing yourself a favor because you are not taking away from your own knowledge. What you are doing is you are positioning yourself as an expert who is always in the know. You are sharing a point, you are sharing information that you recognize as an expert will be valuable for your people on LinkedIn. Okay? All good. All good. Okay, video, we have talked about it. And I talked about this in the first part of the presentation. This is a repeat slide, but remember, it's still the most complete form of communication. Okay, validations, I also talked about. My slides got corrupted and I had to rebuild this slideshow yesterday and very early this morning. So I apologize. There are a couple of repeats. Validating other people's endorsements and recommending them is a great way to get people to do a return favor. Increase your visibility. Always be out there, in the news feed. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be posting constantly. When I first started in this business, I was advised to post 5 times a day. 5 times a day? Are you serious? You can't post anything that is quality, that is of value in 5 times a day. You want to share a quote, that's fine, but don't share a quote every day. If you can only do one piece of content a week or every 2 weeks, but it is a good piece of content that offers value and is carefully constructed, do it. 1 time a week is enough. 3 times a week is golden. Okay? You don't have to fill the news feed with garbage, because God knows the news feed is full of garbage. Okay, so stand out, increase that visibility, and here's the key, credibility. Okay. All right. Blog with LinkedIn. You can get more eyes on your content on LinkedIn than on your blog. So be verbose. Share long form content, and that's in the articles. You go to that section on the post section at the very top of your homepage. You click article, and you can do a long form article there that will really get a lot of attention. And if you use creator mode, you can do that as a newsletter. And people will get it. It will show up as a newsletter to your first degree connections who subscribe to it. And it will also show up in the news feed. All good. Okay. Easily share long form content. Build an audience or built-in audience, because you have a built-in audience on LinkedIn, and you increase your visibility, and I would add credibility. Okay, join groups. We already talked about that. Be frugal. You can use LinkedIn Sales Navigator for free for 1 month. Go in and work the heck out of it. Do the extended LinkedIn Sales Navigator gives you more fields with which to search. So go in, use it to do advanced searches, come up with those leads with the components of those advanced searches, and then pick the 2 or 3, cancel Sales Navigator after the free month, and go use it in the free version of LinkedIn. Now, is Sales Navigator worth it? Absolutely. Every penny. But it's $900. No, I think it's more than that now a year. And it's, it's right around $1,000, I think now. It's absolutely worth it. I have it because I use it for my clients, both to find them, but also to do searches to help them out. You can do so much more with advanced search. If you are really serious about sales, it's called Sales Navigator, right? So enough said. You can send in-mail to important contacts. Sales Navigator has evolved recently. You get a lot more in-mails, and you can save them for up to 3 months if you want them for a particular campaign. But you don't need to waste money on a long-term membership if you don't have that. And be aware that in mail, you now have 2 mailboxes in LinkedIn on your page, where people can send you messages. So you may have noticed some are focus messages. Those are messages from your first degree connections. The others are, I think it says, I don't know what it says, other or something, but those are the in-mails. So not everybody's going to see in-mails. I check them occasionally, once a week. Otherwise, I don't pay any attention to them. Okay. Do be lazy. It's good for your brand. Reuse stuff. Use that repurposing plan. Get out there and do it over and over. Okay. And these are some of the ways that you can use it. You can take an article and make it into a top 10 list. You can take a video that you did on YouTube and use it on LinkedIn, or you do a video on LinkedIn and use it and put it on YouTube. I'm live streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook right now. SlideShare is no longer owned by LinkedIn, so you can't use it that way. But you can take those slides that you use in a video, and you can take portions of them and put them up as a carousel ad, or not ad, carousel post. You can use, you can republish it as a book or as an article. This particular one was done as a book. You can, do features on it in different ways, and make it stand out. You can put it on your blog or on your newsletter. And you can do something like this, which is really clever. What to do in 9 minutes a day. So and this is from a book, What to Do in 9 minutes a Day. So, or 9 minutes a day. That's the name of the book. You see it right here. So this person reused content in a number of ways. There are all kinds of ways to reuse content. Respond to requests every day. Take 15 to 30 minutes and go in and respond to invitation requests and respond to messages and send out messages. That's the way to do it. And if you make some templates and then customize them for people, you can do it even faster. Okay. Be stingy. Only recommend people you respect. Who you endorse and who you recommend reflects on you. I had recommended someone who turned out to be kind of a nightmare. I went back to her and got my money back from her, and I was just going, oh my God, and I recommended this person. Fortunately, because I'd gone back and gotten my money back, she disconnected the recommendation. So think before you recommend. And research others. Learn about others, be nosy, look who's similar to you, learn who's checking you out in profile reviews, and see how you compare to other people. Who else are they looking at? A lot of people have that section on their profile. People also viewed. I don't have it on my profile. I'm not that generous. I don't want to promote the other people who do what I do. And half the time, it isn't really, it isn't all that good, but it is one resource. Okay, be invisible. If you don't want people to know that you're researching them, like your competitors, turn it off in your privacy settings. And this is just a real quick picture. I'm running out of time, so that's why I'm going pretty quickly here. But you can choose anonymous LinkedIn member. Just go back and switch it back, because there is an advantage to having people know you looked at their profile. It raises their curiosity and they'll come back and look at you. Okay, so toggle between anonymous and visible. And in summary, this is the end, folks. LinkedIn is your most valuable branding tool. And it absolutely is. You want to start with your brand. You want to keep it accurate and relevant. And I didn't update this. I took this. This was from Williams' book. I say work it in 15 to 30 minutes a day. Those of you, I know there's one person on here who's already gone through the process and he knows how to do that. It's something that is absolutely doable. If you have a system, you can do it in 15 to 30 minutes a day. So thank you. And I am going to drop this. I will remain on here if anybody has questions. Joycelyn, you just got back just in time. But I'm going to send you the replay, so don't worry about it. LinkedIn Live is not showing the chat. It should be. I'll check it out, but that could be because you're also showing up as LinkedIn user and not by your name. So you may want to go into those visibility settings, because that enables that. And you can change that there. The chat will not show up. You can also go back in. This is probably going to be on my profile for a little while, and it should, if you click on it, have the chat there. You can find it in the feed. It's going to be in the feed momentarily when I end. So you can see all the chat there. Okay. Any other questions? I know it's been three hours of, pretty fast, a lot of information crammed in here. Take your time, go back and look at the replay. I'm going to send you the PDFs too. So, of all the slides. So that's a quick way of reviewing it. I will also send you the links to the workbook, the social branding workbook, the 3D brand worksheet, and the and the LinkedIn checklist. So you will have access to all those resources. Okay. Thanks. Yes, it was a huge amount of content. And that's the way a master class is. If you enjoyed this, please go in and do something in the comments about it, or send me a recommendation for build your brand in bits and bytes. I'd love to hear from you. I do cover the company page, but not in this one. So watch. I do send out once a month at the beginning of the month. We send out what the coming live streams are. And I am not doing a company page one in February. I know maybe in March. But yes, I do cover that. So that's always something that you can tune into. Also, if you have a specific question about your company page, feel free to just send me a message and I'll do it. You're welcome, Don, and you have a terrific day. So I'm not seeing any more questions. And I'm pretty dry by now. So I'm going to wind this up and say, if you have any questions, follow up with me. You can DM me on LinkedIn. If by any chance you're not directly connected with me, go to my profile, tell me you saw this, and I will accept your invitation. You can also reach me at Dumont, DUMONT, at DumontOwen, OWEN.com. Okay, so bye now. Yeah, you too, Mike. Everybody have a great weekend. All right, let's end this pop show, or blow this pop stand. That's what the saying is.